All right, everyone, welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023. If you're not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Pretty soon be doing day trading too. Got some Discord updates coming into the fall, so stay tuned for that. Should be pretty exciting. I'm excited about it. So if you're interested in both of those, come find me there. Anyways, let's get into it here today. So markets today, finishing flat to negative. Actually, let's call it negative. So spiders here down about 0.25%. Triple Q's down just 52 cents. So nothing terrible there. But I will say this was not a really good session for the markets. And this is a very tough environment to be trading in right now. I believe we're kind of in the middle of what could be a trend change. And when you get into these environments, it's very tough to hold positions overnight. You guys know probably, I'm assuming that we did buy this bounce here. We did pick up some positions down here, and I did unload those today just because I don't like how this market closed, right? So we had a nice little gap up, it faded a little bit, no problem there. Put in a low, and then we started to rally up towards 3 o'clock, and pretty good fade towards the end of the day. Now, it's not like we puked or anything, but this shows that bulls really are not that willing to buy dips here. As far as tomorrow's concerned, it could go either way, and that's why I kind of neutralized those positions, just took the small gain, get out of it, because at this point, we've bounced enough. If you look at just some of these, oscillators, the RSI never really got oversold, but even the 4-hour, you've bounced enough here that you could come back down here tomorrow. We get bad news out of China again tomorrow. There is nothing to say that we don't go down and test that 100 moving average into Friday. At the same time, I also would not be shocked to see a gap and go tomorrow into the 50 moving average, which is where I still think we go eventually. But to me, that close a little soft, does leave the door open here. By the way, take a look at some other sectors. I mean, again, if it's not for Tesla, which is something I did buy as well, made a little gain on that. If it wasn't for things like Tesla, Google, Apple finally had a nice day, up 80 basis points. But you look at XLE, that's kind of hanging on to that 20 MA. That's got to get a bid here, at least in the near term. It's still big picture bullish, but short term, kind of needs to hold that moving average. XLF, not strong. Down 94 basis points. KRE, this has got to do a lot of work here to get back above this level by the end of the week. Otherwise, you got a failed pattern. JP Morgan, I tweeted this earlier today. It's not post, it's tweet still. I don't care, Elon. Down 2%. JPM into a little bit of support here, but that's taken the XLF down. And these sectors, healthcare, not that strong today. Consumer staples getting hit. Utes, that was green here, a little bit of risk off there maybe. Dow down 0.5%, so just not a great look here today. And to me, there's nothing to say. Again, my base case, my thesis is that we bounce up into here, right, going into the end of the week. But there's nothing to say that has to happen. There's nothing to say we can't just bear flag until then. There's nothing to say we can't just puke down to 429 until then, and then maybe we bounce on Jackson Hole. So, I'm not going to pretend I know everything, but I have my biases here. But definitely a softer side there to that close. And again, still target though. We can still get to 445. There's nothing to say that can't happen. And then again, that should back check to that trend line. But we'll see how the market trades tomorrow. It's going to be on a day-by-day basis. I mean, it's very tough to hold swings overnight here, as like I said, we're in kind of a little bit of a trend change. So you don't have that, those moving averages, that power moving average trend to work off of anymore. We had that in June. We never thought there was a top in June, and then there really wasn't. We just back checked to the 20. It was off to the races. Now we have lots of distribution on the charts that tells us that the bears are starting to get into control here. But it's not, they don't gain control right away, right? There's going to be days we'll bounce up, 1%. There'll be days where we're down. But right now, short term, again, this is still support. I like that 100 MA right there in the 430 area. You can also look at a 20-week moving average. You can make a case as long as we're still holding that. Things are still bullish, believe it or not. But this sell, it's definitely been a lot of people are trying to compare it to this one here, saying the vol structures are the same. Yeah, but the price action ain't the same, and the volume ain't the same. So it's very different here. But either way, again, we'll look at this still being resistance here on the spiders, keep it simple. And then this is still support until proven otherwise. Anything in between that, it's just kind of a tough trade right now. Triple Qs, again, still acting well. So this is kind of leading the charge here. Apple was up nicely today. NVIDIA did come back in. By the way, these, I mean, you can't believe this, right? They have earnings today, or so tomorrow, and they pumped, they gap and crapped this to an all-time high. I mean, and then they just beat the calls, burned the calls out of the market. Pretty good volume there, some distribution maybe coming in. I've been hearing a lot of chatter. Dark pools on fire here on NVIDIA as this gets gamma squeezed. That's a warning sign, but in either case here, NVIDIA did come in. Apple did do a lot of the heavy lifting, which it needed to. It was overdone. Went into a little bit of support level there on the daily and got a bid. Should get up to 180, maybe even the 20 moving average here in the near term. But triple Qs, again, down just 52 cents. Again, still resistance right up here. And then, if you get through that, you can, it's a little bit of a ways away, but, it could get up to 380. And that is a ways away. I don't necessarily think it does, but that would be kind of your next level. Look how steep this trend line is too. So, but either way, 370, 373. And then on the downside, I still like this level here too, around 348, 350, pivot low. There's your big breakout bar, trend line 100-day moving average, 20-week moving average right in that vicinity as well. So there's levels here, and we'll see if they get hit. Again, we got volatility events coming up, NVIDIA and obviously Jackson Hole. IWM here. Nothing terrible, nothing great. Again, this actually closed better. I would say, it did come off the lows decently versus the spiders, which didn't do really anything, and neither did the Qs or the Dow. So Russell did come a little bit off the low, so that's a positive. You can still make a case too that this pattern here is not terrible, right? So a big green candle on volume, 2 inside days on declining volume. And if you kind of look at the 4 hour, the structure looks pretty good too. Like that could easily just be a zigzag up. 188, maybe 190. Short-term measured move, you could take $3 there. 186, that takes you to the 4 hour 20 MA, right? So there's nothing terrible here on the Russell right now. And, again, there's your 50 MA, 20 MA, 190 would be kind of your big resistance level right now. But, the Russell came off the lows. But again, to me, I don't like the market did towards the end of the day, and it just leaves a lot of uncertainty there. And then when I see something that's uncertain, I don't want to trade it. So anyways, Dow here down 1.7, $1.71 on the DIA. Again, this is also not a great pattern, right? So we broke down of that kind of bull flag type look, right? Weekly chart bull flag broke down, and now we're into support. We got to bounce the other day, but we're just sideways, right? I don't like that. If we keep going sideways, it's going to turn into a bear flag, which can take you down into these lower levels here, 338 potentially, and then down to 331.45. But for right now, it's getting a little bit of a bid. We'll see what it does tomorrow. But again, just another adding to that pile of kind of evidence that this is just kind of a soft bounce. And again, I think also, I told my members this today too, I think everybody, I know I'm not the only one looking at that 50 moving average thinking like, yeah, get up there so I can short it, or, get up there so I can unload my longs. So that could also be part of it. But in any case, let's get over here to the semis. So SMH here down 1% on the day. Again, what did we talk about yesterday? Necktie pattern, 50 and 20 moving average, 153 should be a resistance. Oh, high of the day, 153.24. There you go. So pulling back there, still not broken. It's still okay. A little bit of volume there coming in. So again, maybe some distribution. Lots of pivots here. Distribution volume. It's all over the charts. Just be careful. But semis coming in on 1% today. IGV finished down just 28 cents. Nothing terrible. That can still get to the 20 and 50 and maybe even this trend line. This is actually a strong sector today. It actually held up really well. Zoom reported earnings, and that took a little bit of a dump but came off the lows there, so helping out Cloud a little bit, although it was red. But IGV again still support down at this trend line, and then ultimately I think it gets down into this area here as we have a weekly failed inside bar, so just be aware of that. Transports here today red like everything else, down 0.75%. Not a great look, right? So closing below the 50 moving average again. Still holding this green bar, that's your positive. But this should have been, if bullish, right, this should have been 50 MA, boom, right? that should be your fuel for a takeoff there. You went into support too, right? So that's a good level, should be a good level, but it's not reacting right now. That's a red flag. If this bear flag's here, it's probably set up for a move to 15K. So just be aware of that moving forward. Okay, let's get over here to interest rates. So really quickly, by the way, there is a fake print here on the spiders to the high of the day. So maybe we go up there tomorrow. But interest rates here, 2 years still holding up well. That's above 5% on a closing basis. So that's only the second time in the last, 14 years or 16 years? So rates still really good here on the short end. 5-year, cup and handle. 10-year, still really strong. I think these are stretched, though, in the near term. And I think that they're priced for perfection as we go into Jackson Hole. Again, like I said yesterday, Fed minutes, looks like everybody was rushing to short bonds because they didn't have enough exposure. And they're pricing in a hawkish Fed. I think the Fed will be hawkish, but I think that it'll be a sell the news and yields. Maybe they pop initially, but in a double top, I think you get some type of a retrace here. That does not make me a long-term bond bull. I'm not. But near term, I think risk favors the downside here in yields. But the short end specifically is holding up much better, which is a recession signal, right? So 210 starting to come back in a little bit here, but it is starting to steepen. But either way, keep that on your radar. I talked about this yesterday too. Yields and SPY shouldn't be going up together. That was the case yesterday. What could be the reason for that is, let's say we go up into Jackson Hole, both yields and SPY, or yields and Q, and it's a sell the news on both. It could be a sign that the market's worried about recession, and that's going to be kind of the next thing that goes on here. Even if we get a hawkish Fed, again, market will tell the Fed when to stop. But anyways, before we get too sidetracked, XHB, that was fractionally higher here, so of course leave it to XHB to be green, up 25 cents. This could still put in a bear pattern though, and if it does, it's set up for a move down to this trend line. ITB still holding up, that can still put in a bear pattern for a move to 77.50. VNQ here, green, so that's holding up okay. Nice day there for that, up 23 cents. Still not the greatest bounce. We'll see how it does. Again, max move short term is around 83, and then max move on the downside is 78. XLF we talked about already, kind of needs to hold this area here on by the end of the week, 33.50. But you already had a failed pattern last week, so that's not a good sign for financials any way you look at it. Lots of rumblings out there about Schwab. Pretty good beat down there, down 5% today. So they're in trouble here. KRE, down 3% on the day. We talked about that. KBE, you got to close back above this because that is going to be a failed inverse head and shoulders if we can't. So again, watch that on a weekly close, but Finn's starting to give back a lot of gains. Broker dealers pulling back off of guess where, 500. So we'll see how that does. It could probably still come down. I think 480 would be decent support still in the near term, but again, a little bit of a down day there for XBD. But again, yeah, 500 holding. Finn's definitely kind of showing some red flags here. Crude here down 37 cents. Nothing terrible there. It's still just doing backing and filling. Needs a weekly consolidation, but looks okay. Same thing with XLE. Again, I mentioned how it was softer earlier in the short term, but bigger picture, weekly chart still really strong. I like that green bar, and you're inside of it, so no real issues there. On the XLE, XOP backing off as well. OIH backing off. Again, these are just overbought. Need to consolidate. Nat gas still kind of stuck in this range here. I think I've been saying that 250 area. It still has not been satisfied. I think that's where it can start to carve out a meaningful short-term bottom here. But nat gas still under pressure there. LNG in Europe, or nat gas in Europe is out of control right now. See if that ends up spilling over here, but so far it has not. All right, dollar index here. So here's another reason why I think yields are probably due for a pullback. And maybe even the market more of a bounce. But again, you're kind of into this weekly level. I mention it every single day here. But there's your weekly red bar. And then you also have this little trend line there as well. It's just a little overbought going into that. So that's really all it is. Did have a nice day today, though. Nice little pop. And you close above that trend line. I'd like to see more. But really, to me, you got to close the week above 103.76. You do that, then all bets are off. But right now, I think this trend line at least holds for probably one more higher low, or at least more weekly consolidation. But for right now, dollar's still holding up, and definitely needs to be respected here as it's showing strength. Gold getting a micro bounce here today, even with the strong dollar. Again, kind of going into that 200 MA, not a surprise. Again, 1900 still support. If you get through that, it's 1830, 1850. Silver here getting a little bit of a bounce. That can still get up to, I think I said 2350 yesterday. So it's there. If we can get through that, we can get up to, we'll say 24 to 24.25 here in the near term. But that's really all I see right now for silver. For platinum here, that was up $12 today. Decent move. Still expecting one more down there, move down there, and then palladium, nothing's changed. Copper getting a little bit of a bid, that can still get to 383. Bitcoin not doing a whole lot here. The RSI and oscillators, pretty much every oscillator is absolutely in the basement here. There's still a lot of support down here at 25.5 area. This did have a pretty good breakdown though, so any bounce is probably going to be short-lived, but I do think it gets a little bit of a bid. Again, market not looking very good here. Can't get a bid when there's risk on. Can't get a bid when there's risk off. Not really sure what it wants to do here, or what it wants to identify as. Ask your woke friends, maybe. But in any case, again, there's still some support here. I think it does get some type of a bid here in the near term, but definitely on the weaker side. So just be careful with it. Anyways, back over to the spiders here again. Tomorrow, I don't know what it wants to do. Came off the highs pretty nicely today. It could easily still get up to this 50, 20 MA and that trend line. It could very easily come back down to this area. It could also just chop around until Jackson Hole and maybe even after that. But right now, definitely be a little bit neutral. It's tough to hold positions overnight here. As I said, like we can be up 1% one day and down 1% the next day until we get that trend to start to change here. But again, support and resistance levels have not changed. And obviously if they do, I'll of course let you know. Anyways, guys, gonna wrap it up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. I will talk to you guys all tomorrow.